Well, we are here to take a look at the Paul Vitale Gallery, which is a gallery of my son's paintings, and he was an abstract watercolorist. And he loved to conduct orchestras. He was very musical, and the gallery is in his memory, and it's to share his talents with the world. I wanted a way to celebrate his life. And he expressed himself through his paintings, so I thought, I've got to find a way to display his paintings. I followed up on the fact that one of the efforts of Cal State Northridge is to teach people to work with special needs students.
My contact with Joan started in 2010, where she approached me as the dean of the college, and we talked a little bit about her son and about her son's artwork and an opportunity to possibly showcase it within the college. We had talked about mutual interests. I had shown her at the time a new endeavor that we had started, which is the Teaching, Learning, and Counseling Consortium Clinic. This, for the first time, was a combination or a confederation of different services we had been provided to the community, all together in one stop place. And so we had just launched this at around that time in 2010, and Ms. Vitale came in, and we said that this is probably the perfect venue to showcase her son's artwork, to capture the spirit of what we were trying to do in this center.
Joe and I went to a parent-teachers night at his school, and there were pictures done by all the students, and we looked and looked, could find nothing that Paul had done. Asked the teacher, and she said, "Oh yes." She says, "Well, his are in that stack over there because he won't stay inside the lines." I was working on the name of the gallery. Of course, it's the Paul Vitale Gallery, and I was looking for a subtitle. A friend of mine said, "Art Outside the Lines." And the wonderful thing is that she didn't know the story about that teacher. And it was just perfect. Paul took part in Special Olympics, and I took out my camera and grabbed that shot. It wasn't until the pictures were developed and I saw that, and I was absolutely ecstatic because you can see his smile and his zest for life.
And we purposely set up the gallery in a space where families, both kids and their parents, would walk through on a daily basis as they were receiving services, really to be inspired by the work of Paul.
He was painfully aware that he was a limited person. The boy next door had a basketball hoop attached to the top of the garage door, and they'd all be out there throwing balls, and Paul would be standing there with his heart in his eyes, and nobody paid any attention to him. And I finally came out and I said, "Please let him throw a ball." So they handed him the ball, and he made 3 baskets in a row, and they got all excited, and they said, "You can play with us." But for the most part, people would look at him and say, "There's a limited person, walk away."
I'm very uncomfortable with the notion of having a disability define a person. A person is all the things and emotions and forms of expression that anyone has. In many cases, just to say a child has autism doesn't do anything. In many ways, autism represents capabilities, not disabilities. And when you see the work of Paul, it really reminds you about the abilities in people.
He was happy when he was painting. And the thing about abstract painting is that you can't just glance at it. You have to stand and look at it for a bit, and it will speak to you.
Paul is a testament to the fact that you can have art be a form of expression. And it also is a form of continuity. It's something that joins the environment around us. It joins culture and community. Art brings people in. And Paul's left that legacy for us in the College of Education, the ideal of forming a community and having expression as something that's valued.
And I have the perhaps romanticized feeling that Paul knows about it and takes pride in it. And because anytime he did something and you praised him, he would bloom. And when he was dressed up and somebody would say, "Paul, you look so handsome," he'd say, "That's right." because they don't equivocate. Limited people don't equivocate. They don't have time to pretend. They are what they are, and it's wonderful. I had a tremendous relationship with him, and I understood him, and I adored him, and he returned the favor. And people whose children were not limited would say, "Oh, I wish I had the relationship with my children that you do with Paul." It was so warm and wonderful. One time we were standing in our living room, he and I, and it was a very windy day, and the trees were swaying. And he looked out and he said, "The wind is blowing." And I was about to burst. It was to me, it was so exciting that he spoke. Never mind that it's blowing instead of blowing, it didn't matter.
And everything that we do within this center has to deal with family values, supporting family. Our provost here at the university reminds me on many occasions that we're about prevention at Cal State Northridge. So in working with the community, we want to help families so that we have prevention, we help them before they get to areas of acute care, distress, so forth. So, and that's what this real mission is of this Teaching, Learning, and Counseling Consortium that houses the gallery.
And that was another of his abilities, was music. And he was conducting the whole time. And he would conduct in our church. And I was in the choir years ago, and I brought Paul with me, and he was conducting, and the choir director says, "I can't have him conducting because I need the choir to look at me." And so I quit the choir because Paul was so happy, and we said, "You can't conduct anymore," and he just shriveled into nothing. I said, "I can't stand it." So after that, we would sit in the first pew. His father was very proper, and he says, "Paul, you can conduct the opening hymn and the closing. Otherwise, you got to be still." And so he did. And then the choir director, who said, "He's distracting, I can't have him here," she said to the choir, "You watch Paul, you will never miss a beat."